Greetings. Thanks once again for joining us. This is for Tesla Fan Insight. Today's show is primarily focused on a conversation we've been having about what's going on with the Tesla semi-truck in terms of its true weight and other performance characteristics that enable us to understand the truck better. The second thing we cover is that both Volvo and Daimler-Benz have now gotten contracts with the state of California to provide trucks. And in the case of Tesla, we're not seeing any deliveries. So to some extent, the Tesla Semi has been downgraded from a likely great vehicle to a vehicle that may or may not ever happen. So we kind of explore a discussion of that. And then, as usual, we kind of do a roundup of news and other comments that have occurred relative to input from our viewers, which we hope you'll be one as well. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, please take time to like and subscribe. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We like to emphasize what's going on, or the latest on what's going on with the Semi. We're looking at today, as I shared, we're looking at some information about the weight of the vehicle. We're also taking a look at some discussions focused on kind of what's going on with the location for production, etc. And so look forward to diving into it. Also look forward to any and all of your comments that you might have. By the way, we do have the dead cat mic here, and we're working to make sure sound quality and video quality are on point. As you can see, I switched around the orientation to pick up more sunlight, but direct, sunlight location can affect how many dark shadows you're seeing here. So we're working to address that as well. So to dive into our conversation, also please note I can see the comments when you guys say hello, and I do want to encourage you to leave any comments or questions. We'll get to them at the end of the show. We always want to improve what we're doing in every way, so your input is always appreciated. The other note is you will hear from me, but at the end of the show, if you say hello, but we appreciate it, you're doing so. So the first thing I wanted to get into is we have a viewer her name is Cindy, and she's domiciled someplace on the East Coast and is a regular commentator on our show. And I was impressed because she gave us an opportunity, based on her expertise, to dive more closely into the numbers on the Tesla Semi. In particular, we're focused on the red Tesla Semi right now, and the question of what its true weight is. So what I wanted to focus on is the fact that if you look at the image that we've used previously, and we're going to have to use a similar one again, we had calculated it at about 5,000 pounds per concrete block that was there. Cindy informed us that the actual weight is 3,800 pounds per block, and there are 10 of them, totaling out at 38,000 pounds on the back of the red Tesla Semi. The other note here is that if you have 10,000 pounds for the trailer, so that's a total of 38,000 plus 10, or 48,000 pounds. So this leaves 32,000 pounds for the actual truck, batteries, tires, everything else for the front half of the truck. So I wanted to note this because this allows us to start dialing in exactly how much freight can be carried. It's our assessment that the actual range for the red Semi currently is no more than 200 miles, possibly as low as 150 miles. And this allows a reduction in the number, in the range of the vehicle, but because there are fewer batteries and you're carrying less weight, we're now able to get closer to carrying a full complement of weight that is typically expected from trucks of this nature. So I wanted to kind of bring this up to you because one of the true questions that's been going on was how much does the Tesla Semi actually weigh? And if we deduce how much the load is that they're carrying, I think it gives us a lot more of an opportunity to understand weights. Please also note here, when it comes to weight, the silver version of the truck, we actually have only seen it, tow 4 or 5 cars, or maybe 20 or 25,000 pounds behind it. And I think this is a reflection of the fact that when you have a 300-mile range truck, the battery and other components related to that is simply heavier, and therefore, because you're limited to 80,000 pounds, it limits how much weight the truck might be able to move. So bottom line is that I believe that, as Elon has argued, we do have an ability of this truck to, in essence, carry the full load that a normal truck would, even though the range might be in that 150, 200-mile range, realistically, given that you don't have the battery capacity of the longer range. We should also note that the long-range vehicle, while being able to carry lower amounts of weight in terms of pulling, it does have that 300-mile range, which, as you've seen, allows it to make trips across the United States readily to visit customers with ease, which implies what it would be like for that vehicle to move otherwise. I'm not sure if a truck is only able to tow 28,000 pounds, if that's sufficient to switch a vehicle over to electric in that manner. And so this is some of the things that we're going to be finding out in the near future. The next thing I wanted to review with the Tesla Semi is I believe we've reached what I call the 25K milestone. If you look at the Mule, along with the 2 semi-trucks that have been in motion between Northern and Southern California and the Gigafactory and both of those locations, it's our belief that Tesla has more miles on its Semi than any other vehicle out there when it comes to electric trucks. And I think this is awesome. The challenge, though, that I see, so the question that pops up then in the next segment of the show is, like, what's happening with production? I just got a friend of the show, Chris, just sent a note regarding the Lathrop facility. The Lathrop facility that's being built currently has the capacity to be a truck production facility. So one would say, hey, that might be a place where they might produce trucks. There are a whole bunch of truck production questions that are kind of popping right now. Number one, in China, there's an ability to both build the factory and start producing cars within 6 months. As we all know, we're basically going to be at year 3 from when the truck was announced, and we've seen prototypes, to when we're actually seeing trucks produced. And so the question comes up as to why we have such a long gap between the two things happening. Clearly, capital is an issue, and we also have the issue of the priority being, getting Model 3s out there. And so there are some issues related to, are there enough batteries to service all of the outcomes that Tesla's trying to accomplish, both the production of the Model 3, indeed. And so what's fascinating here is sort of when and where will the truck be produced, and when will that production start? And the answer is it was supposed to be the middle of 2019, but it's now been extended into 2020 without any specific dates. Our hope is that this might happen sooner than later, because there are a lot of customers waiting on it. The next data point here is that the Tesla truck has been kind of rated that perhaps it may never happen for customers, despite the deposits. And Tesla has sort of taken a back seat to competing firms for whether or not the truck will occur, because we actually have Volvo landing a $43 million contract with the Port of Los Angeles to deliver semi-trucks, and Daimler-Benz has a $33 million contract with the same entity. And at least in the Daimler case, we know that they've started delivery of those trucks. And allegedly in the Volvo case, they'll start delivering those prototypes to be used by the port in the next few months, while again, Tesla is still slated to be a year away from when the customers might see those vehicles coming. Another recent data point on Tesla and its semi-truck is the fact that we're on the list for information on the truck, and we recently received an update from Tesla informing us that we should get deposits in as soon as possible in anticipation of production of trucks beginning. But again, there's a request for more money and more deposits, but no sign of when those vehicles that current and existing deposit have been made will be made available. And the thought process is that if in fact there's a large there's a well-documented when the vehicle will be available, I think the motivation of buyers to move forward with large purchase orders increases. So for now, from what we can assess, what we have going is the fact that Tesla has a large amount of deposits. In many cases, the founders are putting up $200,000 to secure, secured in that regard. Roger, thanks for the comment regarding what's going on with the semi happening during the shareholders meeting today. I actually look forward to another show where we cover sort of new findings that might have popped up out of that meeting. And if anyone else has any suggestions or comments, we'd love to hear, because this is really our kind of once or twice a month truck-focused discussion. While we're discussing trucks, it cannot be ignored that the folks at Nikola argue that they would get a prototype together in a year, both electric as well as alternative fuels, and they do have a working prototype in that 1 year, and it's in motion. So kudos to Nikola for at least getting to this stage. I believe they still have to build a factory to be able to get vehicles out, and they've said nothing about where they're getting batteries to power those. So that'll be an interesting sort of what's going on. Sort of checking my notes here on other items to cover. The one other note that I wanted to make about trucking is that the big discussion is for the trucks to go in at the Lathrop location, because they already have a large 825,000 square foot facility there, but they actually have 1 million square feet in Livermore that's also sort of been in development, and that's also noteworthy. One of the question marks about the Lathrop location is that both the batteries, drivetrains, etc., are all being made at the Gigafactory in Nevada. So one of the big discussions has been which vehicle or vehicles will be produced right next to the factory in Nevada, reducing the time that it takes for all those parts to come together to put a vehicle together. The great thing about Nevada is land is cheap. They already have a large facility there. It's efficient, close access to the factory, so it's just a perfect setup in every way for the truck to be produced, as well as possibly the Model Y. The big problem that pops up when you produce in Nevada is the fact that there's a shortage of housing driven by increasing employment by companies like Tesla. And so you have a shortage of workers, you have a shortage of housing. So one wonders how easily one staffs up that facility, given the challenges that are associated with the two items I just mentioned. So we would argue that Lathrop is a good location because it's midpoint between, it's further into the Central Valley. Land costs are cheaper, and therefore a company can get more done. But again, the argument here is that large facility, there's a lot of work to be done in parts, etc. And so it'll be interesting. Wow. Roger, thank you for the comments. You're one of our biggest folks that posts comments relative to what's going on with Maxwell. the Maxwell folks are working hard, and Tesla's been pretty close-lipped on whether or not there are things that are moving that are Maxwell-centric. And so I could see efficiencies being improved currently with the Maxwell capabilities, but we really have not seen anything that says, hey, oh, that's correct. I still have a weird question about Maxwell, which is Tesla has long-term agreements to source Maxwell's technology already, and they've chosen to go ahead and buy the company. And given that cash is short, I was just really surprised they didn't just make the agreement a stronger one in some way and skip buying the company and save the money and stock associated with it. But, you know, the lawsuit by Tesla or Maxwell shareholders to slow down the process seems to be doing the job of keeping the company separate for now, so the deal has not been consummated. So we'll see what happens. But I am, in terms of Maxwell, there's no hate here. I hope it does great. We just haven't seen any finished products that you can stamp on it that defines the Maxwell difference. And if it's going to be a big difference, it's our assessment it's going to be involved with supercapacitors and capacitors and things in that realm that are the next stage. And we're just not at that point where those are being, where we're seeing that finished product to make the whole value of the activity, quite clear. So again, any of you with clear Maxwell differentiators that it makes to Tesla's success, we're eager to see what those are. It's just that it just seems like a lot of money spent without any clear examples of how it's making a difference for the company right now. But we're hopeful that it makes a big impact and allows Tesla to stay ahead of the competition. The final thing that we wanted to cover today is there's some interesting data that came up from England. I was reading one of our news angles, and there's a customer of the model, there's a buyer of a Model 3 in its current iteration at the performance version in England that explained that they're number 3,000 on the list to get their right-hand drive Model 3 in England. And so it's an interesting phenomenon because it looks like European demand is still strong, including in right-hand drive countries. So obviously those vehicles are going to Japan, Australia, England, etc., and are having a good showing of it, which I think validates the anticipated numbers from earnings to be stronger than might be otherwise expected, hence why the stock price is also up. So if any of you, particularly Roger in England, have any comments, would be greatly appreciated to share across the pond information on how the Model 3 is doing in country. It's our understanding that the Model 3 is outselling both the e-tron as well as the I-Pace from Jaguar with ease, and so we're looking forward to it. Yes, 3,500 right-hand drive are expect to be. That's another interesting point there, Roger. The vehicles are being delivered to the Amsterdam warehouse facility of Tesla, or assembly and warehouse facility. And from what we can assess, they're going to move between Amsterdam and England by train, likely by train because you can carry more efficiently, but it could be by truck to go through the tunnel to take it over. Great. Yeah. I saw the comment, Roger made a comment regarding recalls by both I-Pace and e-tron. Recalls are pretty standard for most auto companies, so not a shocker and not unanticipated. So, we'll sort of see what happens from there with that. Any rate, good news to hear Model 3 is doing well on sales in Europe, and we look forward to more of the same, and hopefully the numbers can stay strong to help out shareholders as well as the company build the cash it needs necessary to move forward with authority. Wanted to shout out to Roger, Donovan, hello, as well as the others of you that have said hello. It is greatly appreciated. This has been our kind of our truck focused, sort of what's going on, what's the latest. There's still the paradox of the fact that Tesla has more miles on its electric trucks than anybody else, but there has been no production, so customers can get the vehicles that they've ordered and then can move on it successfully and happily into ownership. So that was another comment. Thanks for the comment there on that, Donovan. As you know, Tesla just came out with a sort of a double the pace charging facility, and they're going to start increasing the number of those and the locations over time depending on where you are. Wow. Interesting, James. Thanks for the comment. Makes sense in terms of an African American plan for increasing the use of Tesla vehicles. There's a lot of solar and other energy going into third world countries that are out there. Part of our strategy as a show is if we ain't got nothing to say, to avoid burning time. So we'll definitely stay out of that. I wanted to remind you that I'm about to do my 20 leg lifts. As we've discussed, if you sit in a chair and you have a 5-pound weight that's attached to your leg, you would simply extend your leg up 25 times is what the doctors are recommending. And numerous physicians have confirmed that this is a really good idea. So I want to get you guys to try it out and also give us feedback based on how some of the health recommendations that we've given are. I also wanted to note I was really impressed. Several of our viewers suggested that instead of having a wedge on your bed to avoid acid reflux, he suggested elevating the legs by 3 or 4 inches on the head of the bed as a way to get more of a tilt forward and therefore reduce the chance of acid reflux issues as you go to bed. Also remember, do not go to bed within 2 hours of eating, preferably 4 hours to allow the food to completely digest, to avoid indigestion as well as potential upper respiratory cancer. We'll look forward to our next opportunity in a couple of weeks to dive into any new information that we might have on the trucks. We also look forward to your comments at the end of the show. Roger, you're our most Maxwell focused individual, and I look forward to your helping to update us on new Maxwell developments that are significant because it sounds good what Maxwell is up to. We just haven't seen results that are impactful yet for Tesla. At any rate, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks once again for joining us. There is one last thought that I had that I met a doctor. Her daughter is a cardiothoracic surgeon in Los Angeles area, and she pointed out because she's on her feet for 12 hours while she's doing a surgery, she will wear what's called compression socks to make sure proper blood flow occurs in the legs. And I wanted to mention this to you guys in terms of being on your feet for long periods of time, and something like compression socks helping to reduce the chance of blood clots in your legs, especially for people who have long-standing. She had also suggested an aspirin of 80 milligrams prior to a flight because it slightly thins the blood as a way to avoid, again, issues that might pop up from long flights. So these are suggestions that we've heard. Would love to hear your input on any and all of those. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Wanted to say thank you all for joining us, both live and non-live visitors. Look forward to your questions and comments. Have a great day. Bye for now. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, lehitraot, Hebrew, Choda Hafez, Farsi, Ni hao ma, Chinese, Zdravstvuyte, Russian, and in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good, brother Donovan. Have a great day and thank you for joining us. We look forward to the next opportunity to be in touch.